Hello YouTube and Talespire community, it's Weedy Pete. I'm just doing my very first little time-lapse video for you guys. It's going to be somewhat instructional as well. We'll go through my methodology and how to make compelling worlds for your tabletop RPG. So most of what I do in the first step is just laying out some foam boards, so I have a general layout for what I'm intending to achieve. This time round I decided that I hadn't tried to do any kind of gully or cave. I don't think I've put as much nature-based verticality in my work, and I think that's a challenge that I can perceive and really do a good job of. Along with that, and there are a bit of mistakes in the layout stage with these foam blocks. It always pays to make your mistakes early on, so you don't have to get all the way through your build and then realize that there are big portions of your map that are all out of line. After placing all of these foam pads where they need to be, I'll start the terraforming process. Just trying to be as organic as possible. When you're working in a system that's constrained to a pretty rigid grid, one of the best things for natural formation is just to try and vary it. Mother Nature doesn't tend to, stick to harsh lines. And these cliff blocks, the model for the cliff blocks is really good because it's super asymmetrical. Asymmetry is really important for convincing nature. But one thing you will notice throughout this build is that I often go back just to fiddle with certain things, and particularly with the cliff sides, delete the parts that I don't think are necessary anymore. Think about it in a linear way. You got to put down the foundations, and then you progressively add detail as you work. Here I've decided to put in a bit of an overhang, a cave. So I've filled that section with the muddier earth underneath, much like a real life cave. Bulking out a simple cave, I just wanted to make it so you didn't have to cut the overhang off to see into it, so it is fairly shallow, but it might be a cool little place to have your bandits rushing out of, that sort of thing. Part of the inspiration for this world is what's a natural formation that's fairly defensible by a militia or a small wild army. I've done a lot of things that are based around necromancers and skeletons being the enemies, lots of ancient structures and that sort of thing. But I wanted something that looked a little bit newer, and like people were taking advantage of the geography, the shape of the land a bit. One thing that I find really useful and far more compelling for nature is we've got a variety of rock textures. So you've got your standard cliff texture that really, it's great for bulking out the shape, but then breaking up the actual color of the cliff sides with these smaller rocks. Just by rotating them, you can get some really nice texture. It's far more believable as well, because, again, in nature, uniformity is rare. And adding those extra, like, crumbled rocks, they kind of look like they're the most active stuff. They've recently been dislodged or cascaded down the cliffside. So now I'm just starting to add a little bit of human influence. Humanoid influence, I guess. We've just recently gotten the awesome harbor set with these really cool platforms. And I don't think they have to be restricted to just, seaside. I've done a good stab at a seaside kind of setup, but I think they're really great for man-made constructions on cliff sides and people trying to repair buildings and that sort of stuff. They're pretty universal. One other thing that I think I should mention is you've got to think about how the people in this area are getting around. Like, if you're going to put a building on the top of the hill, there's got to be a way to get up to the top of the hill, right? This is part of the implication of storytelling. Like, these people have over time really built up a little system for themselves to transport goods, little storehouses, little locations where they like to, privately stack away their food goods and things like that. But yeah, you've got to make a way for it to even be possible for them to, be moving around on these cliff tops. Certainly wouldn't be easy in the first hand. One other thing about this is kind of noodling with the layout is really important. If you decide that, don't just stick with it because it's already there. Be pretty prepared to, fully delete a big section if you think you can do it better. It really shows your craftsmanship when you take the time to get the best result you possibly can. Just going backwards and forwards and figuring out what works and what doesn't. One other really cool thing that they've added recently is these new little Fern Blocks. They're some of my favorite props. They kind of remind me of New Zealand a lot, where I'm from, because you get these really beautiful landscapes that are covered in ferns and pines, and it's all growing out of the rock face. Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's a nice way to mix up the shape and, again, make it feel way more organic than it did a second ago. Split up the color a bit as well, a bit more variety. One other thing is, with placing plants, you don't really have to pay this much attention, but I tend to try and keep them where I know sunlight will hit. There's a severe lack of plants down in that little gully by the end of this video, but I think that's, there was intention behind that. I think that's pretty reasonable. Just building a little blacksmith for all of the bandits here when their equipment breaks. So this is how I normally map out my forests. I tend to build the tallest trees in the center because they're the oldest trees, and then the ones on the fringes are fairly new. But this little forest section changes throughout the video. Gets a little bit less dense and a bit more varied. So when I first started to think about this idea of a bandit gully, I kind of wanted to have a little bit more of high fantasy going on. And one of the ways that I like to do that is by introducing ruined structures. I just wanted to have like a ruined wooden stone highway. Thought that'd be cool. Just deciding to make use of this little cave space here. I'm thinking when I get a chance to use this in my own game, it'll be a really good place to hide some loot. It'll have some pretty high tier bandits in there. Maybe this is where the boss sleeps because it's the safest place. Really got to make the place look lived in. Storing like bed rolls under the bed, making sure you make use of those really awesome little packs that they have. Perhaps this is where most of the men are staying, most of the bandits are staying, just because it's like the most open flat land, and it's got easy access to the little walkway. Just filling out this pocket of the map with a little bit more Mother Nature. One thing that I particularly like to do is make it look like there are some trees that try to grow on the cliff sides but haven't really managed to hold on to life. And that's about it for the build. Basically, I just like to enclose the outside a little bit, but I'm going to skip that because it's a bit boring. And there it is. I might just play with the environment a little bit more, change up the atmosphere. A little bit of visual variety. Lighting at the end is always a good idea. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I intend to make a few of these. If you guys like them, I'll make even more. If you're interested, I might make a little tips and tricks sort of video. Yeah, alright, thanks for watching.